Hello world, it is Monday, March 21st, 2021. And looking out the window at Defiance today, it's trying to be nice. There's a little bit of cloud cover, but mostly blue skies. And I think it's supposed to be 70 degrees today, so some spring temperatures coming up. The devotion for today is entitled A New Lens. It's written by Marilyn Pajan Banks. Marilyn bases the devotion upon 1 Corinthians 3:16, New International Version. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? And Marilyn writes, after 2 years of living under the cloud of a global pandemic, while finding creative and meaningful ways to do church and be church, some of us would answer Paul's question with a loud duh. But just like the church leaders of Corinth, sometimes we too need to be reminded. Sometimes our behavior does not align with what we say we know to be true about God. We forget what is truly sacred and get caught up in what separates us from one another, instead of remembering the common source of our very being. We assign worthiness to particular communities while stripping away the very humanity of others. We victim blame and scapegoat. We ignore oppressive systems that don't directly impact us. We re-traumatize those who have been harmed with bad theology and reduce our mission to simply being nice and respectable. Too often we can't recognize God in our neighbor, let alone in ourselves. Fortunately for us, Lent provides us the space to remember and the opportunity to readjust our lenses or get us some new ones. An anti-racist lens, a decolonial lens, an intergenerational lens, an anti-sexist lens, an LGBTQIA plus affirming lens. Now go ahead, stand in the mirror and recognize God, and in the words of Netsuke Chang, love her fiercely. Then go out and notice God in the man collecting your garbage. Recognize God in the young man shot down by the police. Celebrate God in the grandmother raising children again. Notice God in the woman sleeping under the bridge. Acknowledge God in the youth standing on the corner. Know God in the stranger living with mental illness. God is dwelling in our midst. And Marilyn's prayer. Enlighten the eyes of my heart, Lord. Adapted from Ephesians 1:18. Amen. For me, this devotion brought up the thought of something I often say is the first step in changing our perspective is to first see what perspective we see the world through, which lens we see the world through. Because until we really understand how we see the world, we really can't change the way we see the world. That's a big part of discovery, and a big part of change is discovery of understanding ourselves and how we see the world. And I think a lot of us, well, some people do know and consider themselves to be a child of God. Some probably struggle with it too. But I think often we forget about seeing God in all those around us, and we struggle. I mean, the commandment to love your enemies that Jesus gave is a prime example. That's tough, because loving your enemies means seeing God in them in some way, and that's not easy. Lots to think about in this devotion. I hope you have a good day. I hope you enjoy this warm spring weather, because I think it is the first day of spring, if I'm not mistaken. And have a good day.